Hi everyone, welcome to my Pierce the Heart lesson from my home studio. I hope everybody's had a good week. We're going to wait a couple of minutes and let everybody join. Tonight's lesson is going to be a sailboat. And this is a sketch I had made from a photograph I had taken. I grew up in Manhasset Bay, and well, not on the bay, just up the street from the bay. And so we did a lot of water sports, went to the beach a lot. When I was young, the Manor Haven beach was clean and we could all swim. We can't now. So what you'll need for tonight is just a pencil and paper or any kind of writing implement you prefer. Again, I'm going to be drawing dark, but you will be drawing lightly to start. And hopefully I'll remember to draw dark for the lesson. Okay, I think I'll get started. Now this can look a little complex to start, but I can simplify it for you into shapes and you'll be very successful. Now when you think about it, when you were a child, you basically did a straight line down and two triangles and then the boat, the hull of the boat. So we're going to start that way, but then we're going to get a little more advanced, okay? This subject is a bit more dynamic. The boat is underway, there's good wind, and it makes for a more exciting drawing. Alrighty, so remember I'm drawing dark, but you're going to be drawing lightly. I'm going to start up here and go straight down. Now my friends who say I can't draw a straight line, that's okay. T-squares and rulers are fine. You are allowed to use them in art. A good way to draw a straight line, if you're just sketching though, is holding your pencil nice and loosely and you move your whole arm down. Right, remember, and people who have joined me before know what we're doing now is we're just putting in our major shapes and making sure everything fits on the page and that our proportions are correct. Okay, so there's my mast. I'm going to do a triangle for the mainsail. And I'm going to do a straight line down and a triangle for the jib, like this. Remember, this is just the way we get started. I'm going to do an oval for the hull and the rest of the boat. While I'm doing my oval, I'm watching to see where does that oval end. It's a little bit in front of the sail, and how far back from this sail. So I'm a little short here, so I'm going to go a little bit longer with my oval. And it's not a very wide oval. It's more like a banana. Okay? So I like those proportions. I want to do an imaginary, or you can do a real line down. What's my angle? How high am I from down here and from here? How are my beginning shapes, my proportions? I like it. So now we're going to go on to another step, which I'm going to be drawing darkly, but you will be doing lighter. I want to figure all this out. What is all in here? So basically, it's a trapezoid. So I'm going to look at the bottom of my mast. And we're roughing it in. We're not being perfect yet. And I'm going to draw the trapezoid. this trapezoid ends at this corner of the mainsail and down. And then we're going to be a little tricky here. I'm going to have it do a little bit of a piece of a triangle. Okay. I won't rush you. I'd like to depart with this line. It's just about horizontal, and it ends here at the trapezoid. This line is going to be very important because everything else is going to relate to that part of the bow. Let's look at let's look at the negative space in between these two lines, and let's try to recreate that. How's my width? Looks good. And I'm going to continue with this line back to the point of that little triangle I had you make. Okay. Let's see, where do we want to work now? I'd like to work the point of the bow. And there's a little water here hiding the bottom of the boat, but we can put in a line that's about this wide. When you're drawing a distance, don't look at your line. Keep your eye on this part. Oh, we're back at the stern. Here's that end of our triangle. Let's make a straight line down. And we have the stern here. And it's going to go around, but we'll work more on that later. Right now we just want to get our proportions and our shapes right before we go into what? Detail, right? Okay. Let's leave that area for now and go into the mast and the sails. Again, I want to always be comparing and measuring and looking at negative space. So, we made that simple triangle before. I'm now going to do the correct shape of that jib. So it's like a man's tie. And where does it end? It ends right here. So we're in the right spot here. And we're going to go down, up, and we're comparing to the bow and this way. Okay, we're going to go up. Now a little later you can shade this a little bit to give it the roundness. Okay, so we're here. We're going to go up. And there's a bit of a curve. And then it's a little tricky, but I know you can do it. Okay. Here we are at the mast, top of the mast. We're going to do our line down here, and then our sail begins to triangle out. We compare the negative space here with here. I'm not too happy with the negative space I made. It needs to be bigger from here to here. And I'm going to go out a bit more with my tie. Alrighty. Back to the mast. About 2/3 up the mast are the spreaders. So we're going to go up, comparing it to this part of the jib, and lay that in. Remember, it does not have to be perfect. So this sail, we have to come away from the symbolism of the triangle and do the actual form that the sail is in. So we're going to come a bit away from the mast and down. There's a little bit of a fold here. And this is another important juncture. We want to measure the bottom of the sail compared to this hatch. So it's not much. So I'm going to bring my line down and it curves up. Where does that sail end in relation to going down into the cabin? And what is the shape of that line? And if it's not correct yet, that's okay. Just laying it all in. Mast comes down. We have some line there that's coiled. Alrighty. Now, it's beginning to take form. Let's start thinking about the details. I'm going to depart from the mast straight down, and I see a line. So that's one of the stanchion poles. Where does it begin? So it's right under the mast. It's about this far under, and it's about this long. There's another one a little further down. We're not going to think about that yet because I want to leave this and go to the top here of the cabin. And right now we're going to add in just some not a triangle, more of a parallelogram for the hatches. See how this one curves, goes this way and down. We're going to go. And how far away from the bottom of the sail is that hatch? This hatch comes up a little bit above the trapezoid we drew earlier. And that's a bit of perspective, but not unlike when you do a simple cube. We'll talk about that further in other lessons. I'm going to do a line here. And now I want to think about the cabin windows. This will help us also in locating where we are. So I'm going to do a little shading here. This one's not exactly in the middle. It's under this hatch, a little further back. You can just rough that in. And then that brings us to our next stanchion. See how everything leads to each other. Okay, starting to get nice and detailed. I'm going to tackle the front railing now. I think it might also be called the pulpit. Usually it's good to use your vertical lines to get you started. So I'm going to do this line, and then I'm going to see where the line of the rail hits the tie. So So we're going to go around, and just like the ellipses we talked about in a couple of the other lessons. I could just feel myself on the front of that bow today. When I was a child, well, all the time growing up, I loved to fall asleep in the summer to the sounds of the halyards clanging against the masts at the marina down the street. That was before air conditioning, and everybody had their windows open. But it was a lovely sound. I know some people don't like it, and they bungee their halyards, but I love that sound. Okay, so in the stern of our boat, we have our captain, and she is under a bimini shade. So we have to see how high it is. So here we are, right? That part of our sail. So I'm going to do a straight line over. And then how far away from the sail is it and this part? And it's a little tricky, but remember we spoke about the clock. Is your line heading toward 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock? So I'm going to get the angle of my line correct here, and I'm going to go down. How much space is in between, and down. And up top is all the canvas that's rolled up for when she needs cover and shade. So a lot of people will say, I don't know how to draw people. I can only draw stick figures, but I want to show you a quick way to start to feel comfortable drawing people. You're not going to think of this as a person. I want you only to think about it as a shape that you need to draw. So I'm looking at my subject, and here she is down here, and I'm saying, all right, how far down is her head, and is it in the middle of that archway? And I'm just going to sketch in a rounded shape. And her ponytail. She's wearing a nice red raincoat. And I'm just going to do this. Let's get her the shape. Now, I'm not worrying about anything right now. I just want to get that shape. Looking at the subject, her arm is like this on the wheel. And then when you have more time, you can go back in and do the detail of her hood and some of her coat. But just that quickly, you have the indication of a person. There's a railing behind her that comes around. Where on her does it start, and where on by her ponytail, and how far down the bimini frame. So I'm going to go around. And that's going to bring us, and it comes down, and how far away from the frame, and down. Again, you have more time to do this at home than what we have here, but it gives you an idea of how to get started with the details. So here we have the entrance to the cabin, and I've just done it with a little bit of shading here and down. Here's our stanchion pole. So we go down. And it's a little dark area. That we add there. There's our triangle. Terrific. Now on the stanchion poles will be your lifeline. And it's a little hard to see in our subject matter here. But we can invent it knowing that it goes along the stanchion poles. And around to her, to our skipper. We can work on a little bit more detail here. Now again, you'll be drawing nice and softly, but I'm drawing dark for the camera. Let's start to compare where we are. We can put our number here. Put a few lines here to start to shade. Now where the boat meets the water, it's a good idea to make your horizontal lines and have it go into the boat. Just go right up to it. You can use your eraser tonight as well. We haven't been really using our eraser yet, but I think I will tonight. Might not erase very well because I'm drawing really dark. And you begin to get the effect of water. Remember to erase your oval lines that you made earlier. And it makes for a more interesting drawing if you don't have a complete line creating your subject. You might want to have just some water lapping at the side. Let's add, you can add a little boat in the background. Very simple. Just give a little indication that's the other people are the other sailors on Manhasset Bay. Or people who are moored. If you'd like to add in the distant shore, where would you even begin? Well, you would begin with where the tree line is in relation to your sail. So this sail comes down here. This is where the sail turns. So I'm going to, how far up, how far down from the number on the boat, and start to add it. Okay. And again, you can just rough in your shore. and then get more involved with the boats down here if you like. Now, to get the effect of trees, remember, if you joined me last time, you know, or time before, we hold our pencil very loosely, and we work very nervously, and lots of short lines. And curvy lines, and it's scribbling. You're allowed to scribble as an adult. Okay. Let's see if there's anything I forgot to talk with you about. Do the other side of the boat. Sometimes I forget little areas. Alrighty. Well, I think that is good for today. All you sailors out there probably know where exactly to put the lines and that hold the sails, etc. I'm afraid in my picture I didn't get great detail about that, but you go right ahead and add those. So what I'd like you to do is to, if you enjoy sailboats and it's a subject that you like, I would love for you to look at lots of different pictures, and you can even trace them to learn how to draw them. When I was 6 years old, I had traced a horse and I brought it to first grade, and I was so proud of it. And my first grade teacher said, "Joanne, did you trace this?" Because she knew it was like way too good for a 6-year-old. And I said, "Yes." And she said, "That's okay. It's a good way to learn." So I encourage you to do all kinds of boats, large and small, clipper ships, wherever you want to go with it. And I'd love for you to add color if you like to this, and share your work with me. I'd love to see it. We will share it on Instagram. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. I'd love to answer them a little later. And I hope to see you next week. I'm here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. See you then.